Be Wealthy and Smart, episode 936.
Step into a world of wealth and financial freedom without budgets, boredom, or bosses on Be Wealthy and Smart. And now, here's your host, Linda P. Jones.
Welcome to Be Wealthy and Smart. I'm Linda P. Jones, America's Wealth Mentor, empowering women and men worldwide to financial freedom. On today's show, we're going to talk about why inflation is about to soar. And that's because there's shortages, there's problems with the price of containers and being able to have the supply chain run smoothly. We're going to talk about lots of things that are going on and some practical things that you need to do to prepare. This article comes to us from CNBC and was written by Jeff Cox. And he says, Costco, Nike, and FedEx are warning there's more inflation set to hit consumers as holidays approach. And it says, shipping bottlenecks that have led to rising freight costs are cooking up a holiday headache for U.S. retailers. Costco this week joined the long list of retailers sounding the alarm about escalating shipping prices and the accompanying supply chain issues. The warehouse retailer, which had a similar cautionary tone in May, was joined by athletic wear giant Nike and economic bellwethers FedEx and General Mills in discussing similar concerns. The cost to ship containers overseas has soared in recent months. Getting a 40-foot container from Shanghai to New York cost about $2,000 a year and a half ago, just before the pandemic. Now it runs some $16,000 according to Bank of America. And I've also heard north of that, I've heard $20,000 to $25,000 a container, if you can even find one. It's sounding like it's starting to get pretty bad. And we are going to have some major supply chain disruption. The article goes on to say, in a conference call Thursday with analysts, Costco Chief Financial Officer Richard Galante called freight costs permanent inflationary items and said those increases are combining with things that are somewhat permanent to drive up pressure. They include not only freight but also high labor costs, rising demand for transportation and products, plus shortages in computer chips, oils and chemicals, and higher commodity prices. We can't hold on to all those, Galante said. Some of that has to be passed on, and it is being passed on. We're pragmatic about it. So I want to pause there and say that's exactly what has to happen, is the costs are going to be pushed onto the consumer. We're already seeing it with meat prices really escalating, and that's something to be aware of. I don't think that is a problem that can be solved anytime soon either. The article goes on to say, quantifying the situation, he said inflation is likely to run between 3.5% and 4.5% broadly for Costco. He noted that paper products have seen cost increases of 4 to 8%, and he cited shortages of plastic and pet products that are driving up prices from 5 to 11%. So I want to pause there. We already are seeing prices up on the high end 8 to 11%, yet he's predicting 3.5 to 4.5%. This is the problem, and this is what the Fed is doing as well. They're underplaying the amount of inflation that's actually going on. And I want to report to you the real numbers because it's closer to double digits in just about everything that we're seeing. And it's only going to get worse because we aren't getting the container ships into the ports. I've been out in Newport Beach this summer and I've seen 60 cargo ships lined up waiting to get into Long Beach and unload, and they cannot unload. They've been out there for weeks and weeks. So we have a serious supply chain problem. They're not telling you the whole story. They're not telling you how high prices are going to get. And we already have Costco talking about having to ration items from their stores because they're not getting deliveries. But yet, again, you're not hearing about that. As far as the holidays, it says persistent inflationary pressures come at a time when retailers are preparing for the holiday shopping season, Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas, then into the new year. The pandemic has brought with it a relentless slew of factors that has made inflation an economic buzzword after a generation of mostly moderate price pressures. Companies are pressed to deal with the situation ahead of a critical period. Getting closer to the holidays, we've been working with retailers, and what we see is, number one, they've got to be flexible with their supply chain, said Keith Jelinek, managing director of the global retail practice at consulting firm Berkeley Research Group. We've seen cost of good increases, especially in apparel, also costs of inbound shipping with the costs of containers, increases with transportation, trucking to get into distribution centers. All these costs are going to hit the operating profit. He added, retailers right now are really challenged with how much can I pass on to the consumer versus can I get other efficiencies out of my operations in order to hit my total margin. Many companies have indicated that consumers, at least for now, are willing to take on higher prices. Trillions in government stimulus during the pandemic have helped swell personal wealth, with household net worth up 4.3% in the second quarter. In the company's earnings call Thursday, Nike CFO Matthew Friend made references to second-half price increases as well as stronger than expected full price realization and additional transportation, logistics, and air freight costs to move inventory in this dynamic environment. No one knows how long consumers will be willing to pay higher prices. Jelinek said he expects the current situation to persist into at least through the holiday season and into the early part of next year. There's only so much you can pass on to the consumer. What most retailers are doing is looking across their profit and loss statements, and they're looking to improve performance and to optimize efficiency. That means really focusing on the supply chain. It also means rising prices. So some of the things that we're seeing prices go up in are coffee, cars, computers, games and toys, as well as hotel rooms and travel. The article goes on to say FedEx this week announced that it will hike shipping rates 5.9% for domestic services and 7.9% for other offerings. The company said it is being hit by labor shortages and costs associated with the challenging operating environment. The head of the company's chief competitor acknowledged the hurdles the business faces. The labor market is tight, and in certain parts of the country, we've had to make some market rate adjustments to react to the demands of the market, UPS CEO Carol Tome said Thursday. She added that the company has also been hit by supply chain issues. I'm afraid this is going to last for a while. These issues have been a long time coming, and it's going to take all of us working together to clear those blockages, she said. Federal Reserve officials this week concluded that inflation will be higher in 2021 than they anticipated. However, they still see prices settling to a more normal range, just above 2% in the coming years. I want to pause there. That is just nonsense. We already know that they're way underestimating real inflation prices, and for them to say it's transitory or temporary or it's not going to last into the future is just silly. We are experiencing severe backups and supply chain breakages right now. And I don't mean to be alarming, but somebody has to press the alarm because nobody is. And I don't want you to be caught off guard because this is real and it's happening right now. Cleveland Fed President Loretta Mester said in a speech on Friday that she sees upside risks to the central bank's inflation forecasts. Many businesses report that cost pressures are intensifying, and consumers seem to be willing to pay high prices. The combination of strong demand and supply chain challenges could last longer than I anticipate and could lead people and businesses to raise their expectations for future inflation more than we've seen so far. Fed officials said they are ready to start pulling back on the monetary stimulus they provided during the pandemic, but probably won't be raising rates soon. However, Mester said that should prices and expectations hold higher, Fed policy would need to be adjusted to control inflation. End of article. Well, I don't see interest rates rising right now, but I do see inflation being much higher than what we're being told. So whatever major purchases you have to make, think about making them early. And if you have something you absolutely have to have, make sure that you have that in stock. And if you want something to buy now in anticipation of higher prices later, I would say coffee. Coffee looks to me like it's going to be going through the roof. So if you can pick up some extra coffee at the store, that's probably going to serve you well. If you haven't yet subscribed to Be Wealthy and Smart, hit the subscribe button and you'll be notified as soon as new podcasts are available so you never miss one of them. That's all for today. Until next time, live the good life and be wealthy and smart.
Thank you for listening to Be Wealthy and Smart with Linda P. Jones. Share the wealth and tell your family and friends about the show. Check out our website, blog, and social media for more riches at www.bewealthyandsmart.com.